The first time I saw her, she was sitting at the head of a table that wasn't hers, wearing a tailored black suit that looked like it was sewn directly into her skin, legs crossed, cigarette burning untouched between her fingers. They said she never smoked, just liked to watch things burn. Her name was Valentina Moretti, and the Whispers said she controlled half the city. The other half just didn't know it yet. I wasn't supposed to be there. The invitation wasn't for me. It was for my boss, who set me in her place because she was sick, which in PR speak means terrified. I showed up in a red dress that said I didn't care, even though I did. The room was packed with men in suits and women who looked like they'd bitten diamonds between their teeth. Everyone watched her like she was a flame. They couldn't stop dancing around. I was supposed to sit quietly, take notes, nod when spoken to. I did none of that. I spoke up. I contradicted someone she liked. I called out a statistic they tried to twist. I told the truth, and it landed like glass on tile. The room went silent. And then she looked at me. Slowly. Lazily. Like I was something unexpected on her plate. Her mouth curved, not into a smile, but into the ghost of one. "And who," she asked, "are you?" "No one you need to worry about," I said, before my brain caught up to my mouth. Someone at the table choked. Someone else whispered, "She's dead." Valentina leaned forward. "On the contrary, I only worry about people who say things like that." I felt the heat of her eyes like a brand. I didn't flinch. I should have. But something in me, something stubborn, suicidal, or both, wanted to test the edge of her power. And that's when he spoke. Her right hand. Her second in command. He leaned toward me, voice oily and smooth, and said, "Little girls shouldn't play in rooms they don't belong in." The laugh that slipped out of me was sharp. I turned to him and said, "And little men shouldn't speak without permission." That's when it happened. He stood. He raised a hand. And before anyone could stop him, he grabbed my wrist. Hard. I didn't think. I slapped him across the face. The room froze. Time snapped. His jaw locked. My breath caught. And then, from the head of the table, a soft, low laugh. I turned. Valentina had stood. Her cigarette was gone. Her hands in her pockets. Her gaze on me like a storm just starting. "You're brave," she said, voice velvet and threat in equal measure. I like that. I didn't move. Didn't blink. She walked toward me with slow, unhurried steps, like a lion approaching a wounded animal just to see if it would still bite. She stopped a breath away, looked me up and down. "Name," she said. "Allegra." "Allegra what?" "Allegra Silva." "You have a spine, Allegra Silva. That's rare. Do you know who I am?" "Yes." "And you still raised your hand?" He touched me first. Her smile was cold, approving. She turned to the man I'd slapped. "Get out." But out. He left. Silent. Burning. Then she turned back to me. "Come with me." "Why?" "Because you just slapped a made man at my table and didn't piss yourself. That means I either kill you or offer you a drink." "What kind of drink?" "The kind that changes everything." She walked off without waiting. I stood there, heart in my throat, legs numb. Someone tried to stop me. Someone else whispered, "Don't go with her. You won't come back the same." Maybe that was the point. I followed, down a hallway lit with gold sconces and secrets, into a lounge made of leather and danger. She poured whiskey, handed me a glass. "So," she said, "who sent you tonight?" I told her. She already knew. "And why did you really speak up?" she asked. "Because I hate bullies, even when they wear silk ties and pretend they're gods." She stepped closer. "And what do you think I am?" I stared up at her, undecided. Her smile deepened. "Then let me help you decide." She reached out, brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. Her fingers lingered. I forgot how to breathe. "You interest me, Allegra Silva. You're either very stupid or very, very dangerous. Maybe both." "Good." Her mouth was inches from mine. I like dangerous. The second time I saw her, she was already in my apartment. I came home late, still smelling like fear and perfume and second-guessing everything I'd done the night before, and there she was, Valentina Moretti, sitting on my windowsill like she belonged there, her legs crossed, jacket draped over her shoulders, cigarette unlit but balanced between two fingers like punctuation. I didn't scream. I didn't flinch. I just dropped my keys, locked the door behind me, and stared at the woman who looked more myth than flesh in my soft apartment light. "How did you get in?" I asked. "Your landlord has very bad judgment and a weakness for charm," she said. "And you?" "I'm still deciding if I have a weakness for arrogance." She smiled at that. Slow, dangerous, like she just tasted something she didn't expect to like. "You didn't come looking for me today." Was I supposed to? Most people do. Most people aren't me. Clearly. She uncrossed her legs and stood. Every inch of her moved with purpose, like her body was fluent in every language of control. She walked toward me slowly, eyes locked on mine, and I felt it again. That heat, that pull, that sense that something ancient and volatile had just turned its attention to me. "Do you know what happened after you left last night?" she asked, standing close enough that I could smell her perfume, dark, spiced, predatory. "I assume your ego healed." He tried to retaliate, tried to call a vote against me. "And he's in a hospital bed now. And not because of me." I blinked. "You had him beaten?"
"No."
One of the others did. "Loyalty isn't always about fear, Allegra." She said my name like it tasted good, like she planned to keep saying it until I begged her to stop. "So, why are you here?" I asked. I wanted to see what kind of woman walks into my world without flinching and walks out without saying goodbye. I didn't know we were saying hello. "We are now." She reached out and touched my chin, tilting it just slightly, like she was studying me. "You fascinate me." "That's rare." "And you terrify me." "That's not."
"Good."
"We understand each other." I stepped back. Not out of fear. Out of self-preservation. There was something about her that made it hard to think straight, hard to breathe, like being too close to a flame you're not sure you want to escape. "I'm not interested in being another name on your list," I said. "What list?" "The one you keep in your head. The women you charm. The ones you devour. The ones you forget." Her eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something more dangerous. Interest. "You think I forget women like you? I think you don't usually have to remember them. They come back on their knees. And you won't. Never." She stepped forward again. "What if I told you I don't want your knees?" "What do you want?" "Your mouth."
She was close now.
So close. I could feel the heat between us, the spark dancing just beneath my skin, screaming to ignite. I swallowed hard. "I'm not afraid of you. You should be." She leaned in, lips brushing mine, not kissing, just hovering, enough to set my heart on fire and my spine on edge. "But maybe I don't want you afraid. Maybe I want you curious."
"About what?"
"About what it feels like to be owned by someone who doesn't pretend it's love." "That's not seductive. It's honest." "Then here's some honesty for you. I don't belong to anyone." She smiled again. That same smirk. That same slow-burning interest. "Not yet." The door buzzed. I jumped. She didn't. She turned her head slightly, listening. "That would be your boss," she said. "She sent someone to check on you. She's worried."
"About what?"
"That you're in over your head." "And am I?" "Yes," she said, her voice like silk over a blade. "But that's where all the interesting stories begin." She turned, walked to the window, and opened it. "You have a choice, Allegra. Walk away. Go back to your safe, predictable life. Pretend none of this ever happened. Or what? Meet me tomorrow, 10 p.m. The address will come. What happens if I don't? Then I'll find someone else to play with. But I'll always wonder how loud you could have screamed." She climbed out the window like it was a stage exit, vanishing into the night, leaving me breathless, furious, and shaking with the knowledge that I was already hooked. The message came at 9:47 p.m.
It was just an address.
No name. No instructions. No question mark. Just a location typed in white text over a black background, like it was daring me to press back. I stared at it for 5 full minutes. Then I threw my phone on the bed, paced the room twice, cursed under my breath, changed clothes, changed again, and then, before I could talk myself out of it, grabbed my coat and left. The air outside was sharp, cold enough to sting, hot enough to keep my thoughts swirling in a haze I couldn't name. The car I called dropped me 2 blocks from the address. I walked the rest of the way, heart pounding like I was approaching a confession booth I wasn't sure I believed in. The building didn't look dangerous. It looked like money. Discreet. Elegant. A doorman in black gloves nodded as I passed, like he'd been told I was coming. Inside, the elevator opened without a button pressed. Penthouse. Of course. The door slid open onto a space made of stone and shadow, lit only by the fire dancing in the corner and the skyline bleeding through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She was waiting for me. Valentina. Leaning against the edge of the marble bar, glass in hand, wearing a suit so dark it blurred the line between skin and sin. "You came," she said, not surprised. "I shouldn't have. But you did." "Curiosity," I muttered, "and maybe a little recklessness." "Good." She walked toward me, unhurried. "I like women who make reckless decisions." "Do you collect them?" "Only the ones who resist being collected." "How convenient." "No," she said, stopping just close enough that I could smell her again. "How dangerous." I should have walked away. Should have said something clever, cold, final. But instead I asked, "Why me?" "Because you didn't look away." "What does that mean?" "The first time you saw me, you didn't flinch. You didn't shrink. You didn't try to please me. You looked right at me like you were already imagining what it would feel like to defy me." I swallowed. She smirked. Was I wrong? Yes. Liar. She brushed past me, poured a second glass of whatever she was drinking, and handed it to me like it was part of a ritual I didn't understand yet. I took it. Because I wanted to understand. Because some part of me, the one I never listened to, was already leaning toward her. "What is this place?" I asked. "Neutral ground," she said. "No bodyguards. No guns. No lies." That's hard to believe. Then believe in the moment. That's all I'm offering. She turned on music, something low and sensual, and walked to the window, looking out at the city, like she owned every block of it. Maybe she did. I followed, stood beside her, my heart pounding. "You're not what I expected," I said. "And what did you expect?" "Cruelty. Coldness. A monster." "And what do you see now?" "A warning." "Good." She turned to me, and her eyes were endless. "You should be warned." Her hand reached up, touched my collarbone, fingers trailing the edge of my skin like a promise or a threat. "I don't play fair. I don't fall in love. And I don't let people walk away easily." "I'm not asking you to fall in love." "Liar." Her mouth was so close I could feel the heat of it. I was dizzy, drunk on proximity, on danger, on the way she said things like she already knew the ending. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. "Not your obedience. Not your fear." "Then what?" "Your attention. Your honesty. Your body. For tonight. Maybe more. And if I say no, then I pour you another drink and you walk out. No questions. No punishment. You'd let me leave?"
Yes.
"But you won't." I should have left. I should have taken the exit she handed me so neatly. But my feet didn't move. My hands didn't loosen around the glass. I was anchored by something invisible and growing. "Why do I feel like this?" I whispered. "Because you've never been seen like this before. You've never looked into someone's eyes and recognized your own chaos reflected back at you." "That's dramatic." "It's true." Her hand slid to the back of my neck.
She didn't pull me in. Just held me there.
Waiting. Letting me choose. And I did. I leaned in. Not because I trusted her, but because I didn't trust myself to survive if I didn't taste her at least once. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments, on a scale from 0 to 10, What score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. Her kiss was slow, deliberate, like claiming territory, like rewriting every rule I thought I understood. And when she pulled away, she whispered, "See, you're already mine." I didn't sleep that night, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. After the kiss, she pulled away like she hadn't just lit a fire under my skin, like my pulse wasn't clawing against my throat trying to reach her again. She handed me another drink, talked about the skyline, asked me about the city's architecture, like we were two old friends on a rooftop instead of predator and prey learning how to taste each other. And then, without touching me again, she walked me to the door. "Same rules," she said, voice low, fingers brushing mine. "You can walk away now, but if you come back, you don't leave until I say so." I didn't answer. I just held her gaze, walked out, and let the door click shut behind me. It took me 12 hours to feel my body again. Everything burned in slow, smoldering waves. My lips remembered hers like an echo I couldn't silence. My hands kept clenching like they were waiting to be told what to do. I told myself I wouldn't go back, that it was one kiss, one moment, one mistake. And then, 3 days later, her car pulled up outside my office. Black,
Tinted. Silent.
a man stepped out, tall, suited, unreadable, and handed me a single white card. No logo, no name, just 2 words. Dinner. Tonight. I didn't ask who sent it. I didn't need to. I didn't say yes either. But I showed up. The restaurant was underground, behind a wine bar with no menu and no signage. The host led me through a corridor that felt like a heartbeat, pulsing with secrets, and then into a private room lit by candles and shadows. She was already there. Valentina, wearing a dark red dress that looked illegal in most countries, sitting with one leg crossed over the other like she was waiting for someone who had already disappointed her. "You're late," she said, eyes flicking over me. I didn't say I was coming. And yet here you are. "Curiosity," I said again. "Desire," she corrected. I sat. She poured the wine herself. It wasn't about the drink. It was about control. And I let her have it. "For now. You haven't been easy to reach," she said. I wasn't hiding.
No.
"But you were thinking. And that's a problem? Thinking leads to doubt. Doubt leads to fear. And fear makes people run from things they want. And what do you think I want? Me." Her bluntness stunned me. Not because she was wrong, but because it felt like being caught in a room full of mirrors, every version of myself reflected back, all of them already undone. "You're arrogant," I said, "and you're addicted to danger." "I'm addicted to the way you look at me." She smiled slowly, like you're ready to sin, but you want someone else to start the fire. Maybe I just want to know where the fire leads. To me. The food arrived. We didn't touch it.
We talked instead.
About loyalty. About art. About why I chose journalism, even though the industry was dying. About why she learned 5 languages but only speaks English to me. "Because it's the one you think you can control me in," she said. "And because I like hearing you gasp in it." I nearly dropped my glass. She noticed. Smiled like she'd just drawn blood. "You like playing with power," I said. "I like what power does to women like you." "And what's that?" "Makes you honest."
Hungry.
Bold. "I don't want to be your toy." "You're not." Her voice dropped. "You're the game." After dinner, she didn't ask me to come home with her. She didn't need to. We both knew where it was heading, but I pulled back. Not because I didn't want her, but because I wanted her too much. "This isn't smart," I whispered. "Correct. This isn't safe. It's not supposed to be. And if I let you in, you'll never get me out." She stepped closer. No more teasing. No more riddles. Just her, real and terrifying and all-consuming. "If you want easy, you should leave now. And if I want real, then kiss me like you mean it. And stop pretending you're not already mine." I kissed her like it would be the last time. Like I didn't care if it ended in fire or blood or something worse, submission. Because the moment her mouth touched mine again, everything else ceased to exist. The walls disappeared. The rules evaporated. There was only the sound of her breath in my ear, the pressure of her hands on my hips, the sharp edge of her desire wrapped in silk and poison. She didn't kiss like a lover. She kissed like a war, meant to conquer, to claim, to wreck. I let her. I wanted her to. Her lips moved with calculated precision, like she knew exactly how to make me fall apart and had memorized every place I'd try to resist. I'd never been kissed like that, like I was being studied and devoured all at once. When I pulled back, gasping, dazed, dizzy, she just looked at me like she was already planning the next strike. "You still think you're in control?" she asked, her voice low, amused, maddening. "No," I said honestly. "But I know I'm not helpless either." That made her pause. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in interest. "Good," she murmured. "Helpless women bore me." Her hand slipped down to mine, fingers intertwining without softness. "Come with me." I didn't ask where. I didn't need to. The car was waiting outside. No driver. No questions. Just tinted windows and secrets. The ride was silent except for the sound of our breathing, the electricity between us thick enough to set the leather interior on fire. She didn't touch me again. Not yet. She didn't need to. I was already undone. Her estate, yes, estate because mansion felt too pedestrian for what I saw, loomed like something out of a Gothic dream. Gates taller than my apartment building. Marble steps. Columns. Security cameras that blinked like they were watching me breathe. She led me through the front doors like I was already expected, like I already belonged. "Your security let me in?" I asked. "They know when to stay out of the way. They're not worried about you bringing someone like me here. They're terrified. But they know better than to interfere." "Why?" "Because you're the first person I've brought here since," she stopped. Something flickered in her eyes. She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she turned and walked deeper into the house. I followed. The hallway was long and lined with portraits, oil paintings of powerful women with sharp eyes and no smiles. "Your family?" I asked. "My ghosts," she said. Her bedroom was cathedral-like. High ceilings. Crimson velvet. A bed so large it looked like a stage. She turned to me, finally, and there was no more teasing in her eyes. No more flirtation. Just hunger. "Take off your coat," she said. I obeyed. "Look at me." I did. "Do you know what happens next?" "I think so." "No," she said, stepping forward until our bodies touched again. "You have no idea." She kissed me again, but this time it wasn't about conquest. It was about indulgence. About drowning. Her hands were everywhere. Her breath against my neck made my knees weaken. She pushed me back onto the bed, and the world tilted. I forgot where I was. Who I was. I only knew that Valentina's mouth on my skin felt like a secret I'd waited my whole life to hear. She undressed me slowly, like unwrapping something sacred. Not gently, but deliberately. Like she wanted to remember every reaction, every shiver, every gasp. And when I touched her, finally, it felt like the rest of my body remembered how to ache. She wasn't soft. She wasn't cruel. She was control wrapped in heat. She made me beg without using the word. She made me want her in a way that felt primal, raw, inescapable. And when we were done, if that's what you could call it, because it didn't feel like anything ended, I lay there, chest heaving, heart wrecked, and she was watching me again. Not like a queen. Not like a predator. But like a woman who'd just carved a piece of herself into someone else and didn't know how to take it back. "You still alive?" she asked, voice quieter now. "Barely," I whispered. "Good." She traced a finger down my thigh, slow. "Because I'm not done with you yet." I woke up tangled in silk sheets that didn't smell like me, in a bed too large to feel safe in, with sunlight creeping across the room like it didn't know what it had just walked in on. Valentina was gone. The space beside me was still warm, but the woman who'd undone every part of me the night before had vanished, like a ghost with red lips and steel in her spine. I sat up slowly, every inch of my skin still humming with her fingerprints, my mouth dry from all the things I hadn't said. A tray sat on the nightstand. Coffee, dark and strong. A note scribbled in looping script. Don't leave until you've caught your breath. I hate chasing. No signature.
She knew I'd know.
I drank the coffee.
Showered.
Dressed in silence. And then I explored. Because curiosity is my favorite sin, and Valentina Moretti had just become my favorite mystery. The house was both fortress and gallery. Art hung on every wall, some stolen, I was sure. Some original. Some probably worth more than my soul. There were rooms I wasn't allowed to enter, locked, guarded, or simply humming with a tension that said no. And then I found a room.
Hers.
Not the bedroom. Not the marble fantasy where she'd made me beg and writhe and forget my name. This room was personal.
Sacred.
Hidden behind a sliding door I only found because it wasn't supposed to be found. Inside, the walls were lined with books. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Politics, philosophy, poetry in 3 languages. There were maps, too, detailed blueprints of cities, ports, networks. And in the center of the room, a piano. Black.
Glossy.
Untouched for years, maybe, but still shining like it was waiting to be played. I stepped inside without thinking. Touched the keys. The sound echoed like a secret. You're braver than I thought, came her voice, low and behind me. I turned. Valentina stood in the doorway, barefoot, wrapped in a silk robe, her hair down, eyes unreadable.
I thought you were gone, I said.
I was. You came back. I never left. I watched. You watched me? I wanted to see where you'd go, what door you'd try to open. And you found the one that matters. She walked in, slowly, her presence curling around me like smoke. No one comes in here. Then why didn't you lock it? Maybe I wanted you to find it. Why? Because I wanted to see if you'd recognize it. Recognize what? The part of me that isn't a weapon. I turned to her. She looked different in the morning light.
Softer, yes.
But also more dangerous, somehow, because now I knew the power wasn't in her sharp edges. It was in her restraint. You play? I asked. Not anymore. Why not? Because music doesn't lie, and I can't afford truth. I sat at the bench, pressed a single key. The sound was clear.
Pure. Play for me, she said.
I did. Something slow. Something aching. Something I hadn't touched since before I forgot how to be soft. When I finished, she didn't clap.
She didn't speak.
She just stood there, staring at me like I'd just rewritten the rules of who we were. Why are you really here, Allegra? She asked finally. Because I'm curious. Still. Always. And what happens when curiosity becomes weakness? Then I'll learn how to make it a weapon. Her mouth curved. Not a smirk this time. Something closer to pride. Or affection. Or something she didn't have a name for yet. She walked to the piano. Sat beside me. Our legs touching. You surprised me. That's all I've got. No, she whispered, leaning in, lips near my ear. You've got me now, too. She kissed me again, not like a threat this time, but like a promise. Like something quiet and final and meant to be memorized. And when her hand slid down the side of my neck, I leaned into it without hesitation. That was the most dangerous part. Not the guns or the secrets or the empire she built on blood. The dangerous part was how easily I gave in when her hands were gentle. She left again that afternoon, disappearing behind locked doors with men who didn't make eye contact with me and files thick enough to drown in. I didn't ask questions. I wandered. And when I passed one of the large windows in the East Wing, I saw them. 4 black SUVs pulled into the courtyard, tinted windows, no license plates. Men got out.
Armed.
Focused. Not hers. I froze. One of them looked up. Saw me. Touched his earpiece. My body responded before my brain. I backed away, turned, walked fast down the hall, heart racing. I found one of the guards. Not one of hers.
Mine.
He stepped in front of me. You need to go back to your room. What's going on? This doesn't concern you. I'm with Valentina. No one's with Valentina. People are near her. Until they aren't. The threat was so casual it almost didn't register. Almost. But I'm good at hearing the parts people don't say. And what he didn't say was, if you don't disappear now, you won't get another chance. I didn't go back to the room. I found the stairs. Climbed them fast and quiet. My body moved on instinct. I knew where she was. I didn't know how. But I felt her through the walls like gravity. The door was closed. I didn't knock. I opened it and saw her standing at the far end of the room, her back to me, arms folded, facing two men I didn't recognize. One was older,
Scarred.
the other two calm. I said no, she was saying. And I said it wasn't a question, the older one replied. I stepped inside. The sound made Valentina turn.
She saw me.
Her eyes didn't widen. Her body didn't flinch. But something in her face changed. Something cold. Allegra, out, she said. No, I'm not asking. Neither am I. That got their attention. The older man turned toward me, smiled like a wolf. So this is the girl, he said. The one you're letting sleep in your bed while the rest of us bleed for your name. Valentina stepped forward. You don't get to speak to her.
Why?
Because she's special. Because she's mine. The room stilled. My throat went dry. The man laughed, dark and deep. So it's true. The queen finally found a weakness. No, Valentina said, voice like a knife. I found something I'd kill to protect. My breath caught. The men exchanged looks. And then, without warning, the older one stepped toward me.
Fast.
Valentina was faster. She was in front of me before I could blink, gun drawn, aimed at his chest. Touch her, she said, and I'll paint these walls with your blood. Then you'd be starting a war. I was born in war. Silence. Then he smiled again. Stepped back. We'll talk again soon. They left. The door shut. I exhaled, shaky. She turned to me. You shouldn't have come in. I'm not going to hide. This isn't a game. I know. You could have been killed. So could you. But you stood between us. I told you, she said, softer now, you're mine. I stepped closer, put my hand on her chest, over her heart. It was racing. Then don't push me away when I try to stand beside you. She closed her eyes, leaned into my touch. God help me, Allegra. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to want someone and not destroy them. Then learn. With me. Her eyes opened. And they weren't cold now. They were fire. Stay tonight. I was going to. The night passed like a dream that threatened to become a memory too fast, and I refused to blink, terrified that if I did, Valentina would vanish again, fold herself into the shadows like she always had before. But she didn't. She stayed. She wrapped herself around me in the dark, her breath warm against my shoulder, her hand splayed over my stomach like she was anchoring herself to this reality, to this version of her that only existed when I was there. We didn't speak much. There was no need. Our bodies spoke for us. Slow touches, quiet sighs, the kind of stillness that only comes when two people are too full of feeling to fill the silence with anything else. And then, just as the sun began to bleed through the heavy curtains, she whispered, "They're going to come after you." I didn't flinch. I didn't even ask who. I knew. Then let them, I said, my voice steady even as her fingers tightened against my ribs. No, she said, sitting up, hair falling over her bare shoulders like a curtain. You don't understand. You're not just someone I slept with, Allegra. You're someone I chose.
Publicly.
That makes you leverage. Then let's not be subtle, I said, sitting up beside her. Let them know that if they touch me, they don't get to walk away. She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but what came out instead was, "You terrify me." Because I won't run? Because I won't survive it if you're taken from me. The words hit like a punch I didn't see coming. I reached for her hand, held it like a promise. Then teach me how to survive this world. Show me what it takes to stand next to you instead of behind you. That was the moment something shifted. Not just between us, but inside her. Like a wall cracked. like a mask slipped. She stood, pulled on her robe, and turned to me with eyes like firestorms. "Come with me," she said. We went downstairs, past the guards who didn't meet my gaze anymore, not because they didn't care, but because now they understood. I wasn't passing through. I wasn't temporary. I was something else now. Valentina led me into a part of this state I hadn't seen before. Underground. Stone walls. Reinforced doors. A place where voices didn't echo and light didn't linger. "This is where it begins," she said, typing a code into the wall. A vault opened. Inside, files, photos, monitors. Screens showing live surveillance feeds of her properties, her people, her enemies. It was her war room, and she was opening it to me. "You wanted to stand beside me," she said. "Then know what I'm facing. Know what we're facing." She handed me a file. Inside were photos of the man from the meeting, Dominic Renzetti, and the other man who'd tried to touch me. "Renzetti controls the East Docks," she explained. "But he's hungry. Reckless. He wants to merge our families, not by marriage but by force." And the other one? Elias. His nephew. His rabid dog. "They think I'm weak, because I haven't struck yet. Because I've built something cleaner, more structured, more sustainable. But I didn't build this empire to hand it over to men who measure power by the weight of a body bag." She turned to me. "And now they know you're my soft spot. Or my trigger," I offered. She smiled faintly. "Exactly." Over the next hours, she told me everything. Her alliances. Her enemies. The weak points. The power plays. It wasn't a briefing, it was a trust fall. And I fell, willingly, into every detail she gave me. By the time the sun was high, we had a plan. It wasn't polished, but it was ours. And then, just as she was about to shut the vault, an alert flashed on the screen. Movement. One of her satellite properties, a shipping warehouse, was under surveillance. Not by police. By Renzetti's men. "They're moving faster than I thought," she said. "They're testing me." "Then let's respond." "No. Not yet." "Why?" "Because I want them to think I'm hesitating. I want them to think loving you made me weak." I stepped closer. "And then I'll remind them what happens when they misread me." That night, we hosted a party. Not for celebration. For control. Her estate transformed into a den of elegance and intimidation. Lights. Music. Power dressed in satin and steel. Everyone who mattered was invited. Including Dominic Renzetti. He came. Of course he did. And when he walked through the doors, Valentina was already holding my hand. No introduction. No explanation. Just a silent announcement. She belongs here. And he saw it. His eyes scanned me, dismissed me, lingered, then narrowed. "This is your statement?" he asked, approaching her. "A journalist?" "A woman," Valentina said, tone razor-sharp. "One you tried to touch. One I told you never to look at again. She's not a player, Valentina. She's a liability." "No." "You are." She let go of my hand, took a step forward. "You think you can scare me into surrender. But here's the thing, Dominic, your fear tactics only work on men. And I'm not a man." "No," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "You're worse." "I'm better," she snapped. "Because I built this empire without rape, without slaughter, without forcing women into beds or alliances. And if you think I'll let you stain what I've made—" "What will you do?" he interrupted. "Slap me?" That was my cue. I stepped forward, slowly, calmly, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "If I slap you, it'll be the last thing you ever feel." The silence that followed was deafening. Valentina didn't stop me. She didn't pull me back. She just looked at me like I'd finally stepped fully into the role she'd carved beside her. Renzetti stared, then smiled. "You've got yourself a firecracker." "I've got myself a queen," Valentina said. "Which means you're out of time." He left, but not before whispering, "This won't end well." And Valentina whispered back, "Not for you." That night, when the guests were gone and the silence returned, she pulled me into her office, locked the door, and kissed me like the only way to survive was to burn. And I let her. Because I wasn't surviving her. I was choosing her. 3 days after the party, two things happened almost simultaneously. These stocks burned for 7 hours straight, and I received a message slipped under my door that read simply, "She can't protect you forever." I knew who sent it. I didn't tell Valentina. Not yet. I read it, memorized the handwriting, then burned it in the bathroom sink and opened the window to let the smoke out. I didn't want her to see it. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want her fury unleashed before we were ready. But I underestimated her. That night, while we were eating dinner in her office, she looked at me over a glass of wine and said, "What did the note say?" I froze. "What note?" "The one you didn't mention, but couldn't stop thinking about. It's in your body. You're holding your fork like it might become a weapon." I sighed. "It said you can't protect me forever." "They're not wrong," she said casually. "But they're also not prepared for what happens when I stop protecting and start retaliating." I set the fork down. "Then let's retaliate." She studied me for a long time, as if weighing every word I'd said, every heartbeat I gave her. "You're not the woman I met in that room." "No," I said. "I'm the one you created in the aftermath." She didn't smile, but something in her face softened. And then she said something I hadn't expected. "There's going to be a hit." "On who?"
Me.
"Maybe you. Maybe both." Dominic's people are getting sloppy. Desperate. When men like him lose control, they swing wide and hope something breaks. "What are you going to do?"
Set the trap.
"Let them come. Let them think they've won. And then remind them that queens don't run. We orchestrate." She reached into the drawer of her desk and handed me a small, black case. Inside, a weapon. Lightweight.
Sleek. Custom.
"I had it made for you," she said. "Just in case." I looked at it. Held it. It felt cold, final, heavier than it looked. "Do you expect me to use this?" "I expect you to survive." "And what if I'm not that kind of woman?" "Then you better become her fast." The next morning she was gone. Again. But this time, I didn't panic. I went to the war room, checked the feeds, studied the maps, sent 2 coded messages to her allies under names I barely recognized. I didn't just exist in her world now, I operated in it. And when she returned that night, blood on her sleeve and calm in her eyes, she looked at me like I was something both beautiful and terrifying. "You're adapting," she said. "I told you I would. And you're still here. You keep expecting me to run. I've never had someone stay this long. Then stop testing me." "I'm not. I'm watching you evolve." The next attack came faster than expected. 2 cars followed us out of a meeting in the city. Her driver took the long route home. I saw the men in the rear view. I didn't ask questions. I just reached into the glove compartment, found the extra weapon, and clicked the safety off. Valentina noticed. Said nothing. The chase was short. Abrupt. We pulled into a tunnel, and the car slammed to a stop. The driver shouted something. Valentina moved first, pulling me low behind the seat. "Stay down," she said. "Like hell I will." I hissed. When the first bullet shattered the back window, she returned fire instantly. Her movements were clean, precise. She was everything I expected and more. But when a figure approached my side of the car, I didn't hesitate. I raised the weapon she gave me.
Aimed.
Fired.
Once.
Then twice. He dropped. My ears rang. My hands shook. But I kept breathing. When the shot stopped and the tires squealed and the tunnel fell quiet again, Valentina touched my face. "You're bleeding." "Not mine." "You sure?" "Yes." "That was your first kill." I looked at her. It wasn't murder.
No.
It was survival. That night in the shower, I stood under the water until it ran cold. She came in behind me. Didn't say anything. Just wrapped her arms around me and held me there like she knew exactly what part of me had died in that tunnel and what part had been born in its place. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just whispered, "I'm still here." And she whispered back, "So am I." Later, when we were lying in bed, tangled in each other again, she said, "I need to tell you something." "What?" If this goes wrong, if something happens to me, there's a safe in the piano room.
Top drawer.
It has everything you'll need to disappear. I turned to her, furious. Don't say that. I have to. Why? Because I've never loved anyone before, Allegra. And that means I've never had something to lose. I stared at her. Say it again. I love you. Then don't talk about dying. Talk about what we'll build when we win. And for the first time, Valentina Moretti didn't correct me. The next morning began with silence, the kind that hums under the skin, not peace but pressure, like something about to break. Valentina stood on the balcony wrapped in black silk, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, eyes scanning the skyline as if the city owed her a confession. I watched her from the bed, saw the tension in her spine, the way her fingers gripped the phone like a blade instead of a device. Bad news? I asked, voice still raw from sleep and something deeper. She didn't turn around. The docs weren't just a test. They were a message. Renzetti's sending shipments under our noses, guns, drugs, girls.
He's doing it with my stolen routes.
With my stolen men. You trusted the wrong people?
No.
I trusted people I should have killed sooner. I stood, wrapped the sheet around me, and walked to her. So what now? Now I burn everything that doesn't belong to me. Her tone was flat, final. I reached for her free hand. Don't do it alone. You already killed for me, Allegra. And I do it again. But don't mistake that for indifference. I still care who I become. She turned then, finally, and her eyes locked on mine with something that almost looked like fear. And what if who you become isn't who you were supposed to be? Then I hope you still love her. She kissed me then, sudden, hard, like she needed to silence her doubts with the only thing that ever made sense between us. Afterward, the plan came together faster than I expected. Valentina wasn't just ruthless, she was brilliant, surgical, every move calculated, every risk measured. And this time, I wasn't watching from the sidelines. I was inside the circle, trusted,
listened to.
She gave me access to every piece of the operation.
Codes.
Contacts. Contingencies. And with each secret she handed me, I felt the lines between us blur. Lover, partner, accomplice. That night, we met with 3 of her most powerful allies. Women, all of them.
Smart.
Strategic. One of them looked at me and said, "So you're the reason she's letting her guard down." I smiled.
No.
I'm the reason she's fighting harder than ever. Valentina didn't disagree. The following days blurred into preparation, safe houses, encrypted communications, legal traps, and political chess moves that made my head spin. And in the middle of it all, brief moments of stillness. Her brushing her fingers down my back when no one was looking. Me leaving handwritten notes in her coat pocket. A kiss stolen in the back seat of a moving car. Until finally, the night of the strike arrived. Renzetti's warehouse. East Docks. Midnight. We were there. Not hidden. Not subtle. Valentina wanted them to see her coming. He expects a proxy, she said. He expects fear. Then give him neither. She wore all black. No jewelry. No heels. Just a blade tucked under her jacket, and a look that could end wars. I wore the same. When we entered, the guards froze. One reached for his radio. I shot it out of his hand.
Don't, I said.
Tonight isn't about warnings. Inside, Dominic was waiting. He looked older.
Greedier.
He smiled when he saw us. I have to admit, I didn't expect you to come in person. That's your problem, Valentina said. You think power is something that hides. I'm here to remind you it's something that walks in with its head high. And the journalist, he mocked. She's still playing soldier? No, I said, stepping forward. She's writing your last chapter. He laughed, then nodded. A signal. Men stepped from the shadows.
Armed.
Dozens. You really came here to die? He asked. No, Valentina said. We came to kill. And then the lights dropped. Our people moved. Silent. Precise. Every shot counted. Every second planned. I stayed with Valentina, covering her flank, firing when needed, never losing sight of her. She was a storm, Elegant. Unforgiving. Beautiful in the way a collapsing building is beautiful, terrifying, and inevitable. Dominic ran. Of course he did. Cowards always run. We followed. Tracked him through the corridors of his own empire until we found him cornered in his office. "You don't have to do this," he said, desperate now. "We can make a deal." "You're right," Valentina said, raising her gun. "I don't have to. But I want to." She didn't hesitate. One shot.
Clean.
Final.
He fell.
I stared at his body, at the blood spreading across the marble floor, and felt nothing. Not relief. Not regret. Just silence. And then Valentina turned to me. "It's done," she said. "We won." "Then why do you look like something's still broken?" "Because I'm not used to surviving with someone. I only know how to win alone." I walked to her, touched her cheek. "Then start learning. Because you're not alone anymore." The aftermath wasn't quiet. It never is. Even when the blood has dried and the bodies are buried and the enemy has been erased, the silence that follows isn't peace. It's a pressure. A shift. Something so heavy it presses against your ribs when you breathe. A reminder that power, once defended, must now be maintained. Valentina didn't celebrate. There was no champagne. No victory speech. Just long hours behind closed doors. Meetings with people who wore fake smiles and asked what came next, as if they hadn't waited for her to fail. I saw it in their eyes, the way they looked at her differently now. Not with fear.
With awe.
Reverence. She wasn't just untouchable anymore. She was unstoppable. But with that power came distance. I felt it immediately. She kissed me less. Spoke in brief, controlled sentences. Moved like someone who knew she was being watched at all times. I tried to be patient. I told myself it was temporary. That after the dust settled, she'd return to the woman who held me under cold water and whispered, "I love you," like a confession she wasn't sure she deserved to say. But days passed. Then a week. And still, the space between us grew. It started small. Missed breakfasts. Calls taken in another room. Locked drawers that used to be open. Until finally, one night, she came home late. Past midnight, no explanation, blood on her sleeve again, and I said, "Tell me what's going on." She paused in the doorway, exhausted, eyes darker than usual. "Not now." "Then when?" "I don't know." "Valentina, talk to me. I'm trying to protect you." "By shutting me out?" "By keeping you alive." "I killed for you," I snapped. "I bled for you. I burned for you. And now you won't even look at me." She turned then, slowly, and the look on her face cracked something in me. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Pure and deep and hidden behind those perfect walls she'd spent a lifetime building. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "Be in love. Be vulnerable. Be human." I stepped forward. "Then learn. Like I did. Like we both did. Don't shut me out now. Don't ruin this because it scares you." She looked at me like I was offering her a lifeline she didn't believe she deserved. "Everyone I've ever loved has died. Or betrayed me. I'm not them. You could be. And you could be wrong. But you'll never know if you keep running from it." The silence stretched. And then she reached for my hand. Held it tightly. "Come with me," she said. I followed her to the basement. Not to the vault. Deeper. To a part of the house I didn't know existed. She typed in a code. The door opened. And there, in the center of the room, was a single chair, a steel table, and a file. "What is this?" I asked. "Insurance." "Against who?" "Me." She handed me the file. Inside, documents, passwords, safe house locations, legal identities. Enough to disappear. Enough to survive. "If I die," she said, "you use this. No questions. No hesitation. Stop. Allegra. I'm not planning for your death. Not when we just got to your life." She cupped my face. "Then let me plan for both. Just in case." I took the file. Not because I agreed, but because I knew refusing it would only make her push me away further. She watched me the whole time, eyes unreadable, Do you trust me? She asked. With everything but your heart, I said. She flinched. I regretted it immediately. But it was true. Then I'll try, she whispered. Try harder. That night, she didn't touch me like she wanted to forget the world. She touched me like she wanted to stay in it. With me. Every kiss was slower. Every breath shared. Every glance filled with questions we were both finally ready to answer. And as I fell asleep with her arms around me, I realized something terrifying. If I lost her, I wouldn't just lose a lover. I'd lose myself. There was a shift in the house after that night. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a slow unraveling of tension, like a fist finally unclenching. Valentina stopped disappearing before sunrise. She stopped answering her phone in the middle of dinner. She stopped locking the drawers. I noticed every small change. She didn't say, I love you again, not yet, but she didn't have to. I saw it in the way she waited for me to finish my coffee before starting her meetings, in how her fingers found mine under the table when no one was watching, in how she stopped calling the estate the house and started calling it home. But comfort is a dangerous illusion in our world. It lulls you into forgetting that peace is temporary. That love, when you've built it on the edge of a blade, always demands a price. The warning came on a Tuesday. A single photo delivered by courier with no return address. It was a picture of me, alone, walking through the market 2 days earlier. On the back, a note. She's not as untouchable as you think. Valentina read it first.
She didn't speak.
Didn't blink. She simply tore the photo in half, then in half again, then again, until it was nothing but black and white confetti bleeding between her fingers. I touched her wrist. Valentina. They've made their move. Who? Luca Valdez. The name hit like ice water. He's alive.
Alive.
And crawling out of the grave I left him in. I thought, so did I. She stood, moved like a weapon being unsheathed. We need to go. Where? Somewhere I never take anyone. Somewhere I swore I'd never return. Then why now? Because you're not anyone. And because if Valdez has your face in his files, he's not just coming for my empire, he's coming for my heart. I followed her. Into a car. Into the countryside. Into a part of her past I hadn't touched yet. We drove for hours. In silence. The kind of silence that says too much. Until the city disappeared behind us and trees swallowed the skyline. She didn't speak again until the house came into view. A modest one. Rustic. Remote. Not like her. Where are we? I asked. The place I stopped believing I deserved peace. And now? Now I'm willing to fight for it. Inside, the house smelled like dust and memory. Pictures lined the walls. None of her. Just landscapes. Empty fields. A single cracked frame face down on a shelf. I reached for it. She stopped me.
Don't.
Was it someone? Once. She didn't explain further. I didn't push. She poured wine in silence. Sat across from me at the table. You need to understand something, Allegra. Tell me. Valdez doesn't fight for power. He fights for pain. He'll come for you not because you're in the way, but because you matter to me. He sees hearts as weaknesses to be carved out. Then let him try. You don't get it. He was the first person I ever trusted. And the first person who betrayed me. What did he do? He loved me. And then he sold me. I felt my stomach tighten. Valentina, he gave my name.
My routes.
My blood. In exchange for his freedom. I killed him that night. Or so I thought. But you don't understand the kind of man who doesn't stay dead. He doesn't come back for revenge. He comes back to finish what he started. Then we don't give him the chance. He'll use you, Allegra. He'll bait me with you. He'll hurt you to get to me. I'm not afraid. You should be. I'm afraid of losing you, not of him. She stared at me, then stood, moved to the window. The sun was low, orange bleeding into the sky. If anything happens to me, don't. Listen to me, no. We're done with contingency plans. We face him. Together. You could still walk away. I don't want peace without you in it. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, she turned and crossed the room, took my face in her hands. When I first saw you, you were fire. Reckless. Unafraid. And I thought, if I touch her, I'll burn. You did. And I've never felt more alive. She kissed me like the promise we were too afraid to speak aloud. That night, we made love not like it was stolen time, but like we were building something, brick by brick, kiss by kiss, heartbeat by heartbeat. And when I woke up, sunlight on my skin and her hand tangled in mine, I realized the war wasn't over. But for the first time, we were ready. The first sign came in the form of silence. Not the soft, intimate kind that grew between us in the late hours of night, but the kind that hovered over the estate like a held breath, like every wall and hallway was waiting for something awful to arrive. The guards were nervous. I could feel it. Their steps sharper, their glances tighter, every movement more alert than the last. Valentina noticed too. She said nothing, but her jaw clenched when she thought I wasn't looking. Her voice lost warmth in strategy meetings. Her hands were always cold. "He's already here, isn't he?" I asked one morning, standing by the window, watching the trees that bordered the estate.
"He's not inside," she said.
"But he's close. And he's watching." "Then let's not wait. We don't know where he is yet. Then use me. I'm what he wants." "Don't say that," she snapped.
"Why?"
"It's true. You said it yourself. He'll come for your heart. Let him find me, Valentina. On our terms."
"No."
"We lure him, not offer a sacrifice." "I'm not a sacrifice. I'm bait with a gun." "You're not bait either. She stopped herself, then turned away. "You're not something I'm willing to lose." "Then don't lose me. Use me." She didn't speak again until that night. We were in the war room. Lights low. Maps scattered across the table. Surveillance feeds open on every screen. "He has a pattern," she said, pointing to locations along the southern border of her territory. "He always hits at twilight. He waits for the exact moment the sun disappears. Symbolic. Dramatic. Predictable. And we use that. We set a trap. We'll leak intel. Make it look like I'm moving a large shipment of weapons through an abandoned route. But I'll be waiting. With 20 of my best. Hidden. Armed. And me. You'll be on the move. Somewhere visible. Vulnerable. But not alone. Cameras on you. GPS in your earrings. Bulletproof car. And if anything happens, anything, I want you to run. Don't look back." "You know I won't." "Then promise me you'll try." "I won't promise you something I know I'll break." She closed her eyes, then opened them again, slower. "You're going to kill me someday, Allegra." "No," I said. "I'm going to be the reason you finally live." We launched the plan 3 nights later. Twilight bled across the horizon in violent orange and crimson. I was in the car, alone but watched. Valentina's men scattered across rooftops, in shadows, behind false walls. I wore black, hair up, eyes forward. The earpiece buzzed with her voice every few minutes. Steady, focused, until it wasn't. "He's here," she said. "How do you know?" "Because he just walked into the trap. And he's not alone." "How many?" "Too many." He knew. "It's a setup?"
"No."
"It's a war." The next minutes were a blur. Gunfire erupted like thunder. My driver screamed something. The car swerved. A blast hit the back wheel.
We spun.
I hit my head.
Blood. Light.
Screams. And then I was outside, crawling, gasping, pulling myself behind an overturned barricade as bullets cracked through the night air. "Valentina!" I screamed into the earpiece. "Valentina, where are you?" No response. Just static. I grabbed my gun, crawled further. My body burned. My arm was bleeding. I didn't care. I had to find her. I had to see her. And then through the smoke, I saw him. Luca Valdez. Not a ghost. Not a shadow. Real.
Alive.
And walking straight toward me. "So," he said, calm as ever, "this is the girl who made Valentina weak." "She's not weak," I growled. "She's human. Something you never were. Oh, I was once. Until she killed that part of me.
No, I said.
You did that all on your own. He raised his weapon. I didn't flinch. I aimed mine. But he was faster. A shot rang out. Not mine. Not his. From the shadows. He dropped. One shot to the temple. I turned. And there she was. Valentina. Bloodied. Breathing hard. Arm limp at her side. But standing. She didn't look at Luca's body. She looked only at me. I told you, she said, voice breaking. I wouldn't let him take you. I ran to her. Caught her just as she collapsed. Stay with me, I whispered. You promised me we'd win. Don't break that promise now. She smiled, faint, blood on her lips. I told you once, she whispered. You were fire.
And
I forgot how good it felt to burn. The ambulance never came. Valentina refused. Even as her blood soaked through my hands, even as I begged, her voice stayed calm, sharp with command. No hospitals. No names. No trails.
So I did what she asked.
I helped carry her to the back car, barked orders at men who would have died for her, but now looked like they might crumble, just watching her bleed. We drove fast, far, through back roads and coded detours, until we reached the private estate of one of her most trusted allies, a woman named Sophia with hands steadier than any surgeon and eyes colder than ice. Get her inside, Sophia said.
Now.
The room went quiet while she worked. I stood at the door, shaking, soaked in blood that wasn't mine, watching as the woman I loved hovered somewhere between breath and silence.
I didn't cry. Not then.
I couldn't. My body was in survival mode. But the fear, God, the fear was everywhere. It lived in my bones, in the cracks of my voice, in the memory of Valentina collapsing in my arms. The bullet had hit near her ribs. Deep, but not fatal. Sophia stitched her up while I stood there feeling like a ghost. When it was over, Sophia pulled off her gloves and looked at me. She'll live. Barely. I nodded.
Couldn't speak.
Couldn't move. Just stood there until the world came back in fragments. She let me in the room once Valentina was stable. I sat beside her, held her hand. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow, but she was alive. I told myself that over and over like a prayer. You're not allowed to die, I whispered. Not after everything we've done. Not after all the blood, all the fire. All the nights you kissed me like it was the only way to stay alive. She didn't answer. Just slept. I stayed up all night. The men outside kept guard. No one spoke. The war was over, and now came the part no one talks about, when the silence feels heavier than the chaos. The next morning, her eyes opened. Barely. But it was enough. Allegra, she croaked. I was at her side instantly. I'm here. We won. Yes. You're safe? I am now. Her lips trembled. Good. I kissed her forehead. Don't do that again. Can't promise. Try. For you? Always. The next days were recovery. She healed slowly. I stayed with her, read to her, watched over her like she had watched over me all those nights I didn't even know she was doing it. Sophia told me I should sleep. I didn't. Not really. I slept beside her, woke at every sound, every movement. But slowly, life began to return. Valentina sat up, then walked, then argued. And I knew she was getting better because she started giving orders again. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, I want to go home. We're safe here. We're not hiding anymore. Are you sure? I'm done running from ghosts. So we returned. The estate had been cleaned, reinforced. Her people stood straighter now. More loyal, more protective. They looked at her differently, and at me. Not with suspicion, but respect. I wasn't just the girl who slapped the Mafia queen anymore. I was her partner, her equal, her future. That night, we sat in the garden. Just us. Candles flickering. Wine half full. Silence between us. Not from fear, but peace. What happens now? I asked. Now, Valentina said, we rebuild.
Us.
Everything. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Not even when I slapped you? She laughed. Genuinely. Especially then. I leaned in. You scared me. That night. You didn't show it. I was already falling. So was I. Why didn't you stop me? Because I'd rather burn with you than freeze without you. She kissed me then, slow, certain, the kind of kiss that doesn't ask questions, it answers them. The kind that says, we made it. We stayed in that garden until dawn. Until the sky turned soft with light and the birds dared to sing again. And in that quiet, sacred moment, I realized something I'd never said out loud. I never knew where home was, I whispered. Until you. Spring arrived without permission. The garden bloomed like it remembered how to breathe again, like the earth itself knew that something in this house had shifted from survival to living. Valentina walked without pain now. Her scars were still healing, but she didn't hide them. She wore them like armor, like proof. Proof that she bled and lived and lost and still chose love. The empire she rebuilt was quieter now. Tighter. She let go of men who had once thrived on chaos and promoted those who understood strategy, discipline, loyalty. The kind of loyalty she'd learned from me. We were different now. Not softer. Not weaker. Just clearer. We moved through the world like two people who had already faced the worst and decided that the best was still worth fighting for. One afternoon, I stood in her office, looking at the map she used to study for hours, the one full of pins and lines and names I'd come to memorize. What happens now? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just walked toward me, heels silent, presence loud. She stopped at my back and wrapped her arms around me, chin resting on my shoulder. Now we stop surviving and start building. You already rebuilt your empire. I wasn't talking about that. I turned in her arms. Then what are we building? A life. You sure you want to do that with me? You slapped me in front of 50 armed men, Allegra. If I didn't want you, you'd be buried under this house. Romantic. You're still alive, aren't you? Barely. I whispered against her mouth. She kissed me like she wanted to make sure I never doubted again. That night, she took me to a part of the estate I'd never seen. A wing still under renovation. This was my mother's, she said. She wanted it to be a sanctuary. I never finished it. But now what? Now I want you to finish it. With me. Make it ours. I looked around. It was empty.
Dusty.
The windows were high, the floors raw, the walls waiting. But it was perfect. It was a beginning. What would we put here? I asked. She took my hand. A library. A kitchen you'll never cook in. A bedroom with windows that catch the morning light. And a locked drawer with every lie we've told. Just so we never have to lie again. You're serious about this?
Deadly.
Good. The next month, we worked side by side. Contractors came and went. Furniture arrived. Light-filled spaces that hadn't known warmth in years. She insisted on building a reading nook for me. I insisted on hanging art in every hallway. We fought over the color of the walls. We made up in the shower. We laughed more than I ever thought possible in a place that had once smelled like blood and silence. One evening, I found her outside, looking at the garden, fingers wrapped around a glass of wine she hadn't touched. You okay? I asked. I've spent my whole life building things meant to be feared, she said. This is the first time I've built something meant to be loved. I stepped behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. Then let's keep building. She turned in my arms. I have something for you. If it's another gun, I'm going to scream. She smiled, reached into her coat, and pulled out a small black box. My breath caught. Is that, you asked me once if I was sure. I am now. She opened it. A ring. No diamonds. Just a band, simple, strong, engraved on the inside. I took it. Read it. Fire and the woman who didn't run from it. Valentina, you can say no, she said. I'd kill for you anyway. I'm not going to say no. Then say yes. I didn't speak. I just kissed her.
Deep. Certain.
Final in the best way. That night, we danced in the garden with no music. Just us. Barefoot.
Tipsy.
Stupidly in love. Later, in bed, her body curled around mine, I whispered, "You know what the scariest part of all this is?" "What?" "It's not that I almost died. It's not even the war." "Then what?" "It's that I never believed someone like you could be real." She kissed my shoulder. "I'm not. Liar. Only a little." I smiled, closed my eyes, felt her heartbeat under my hand. And for the first time, I didn't brace for what might go wrong. I didn't imagine the worst. I just let myself stay in it. In her. In us. Because the danger was gone. The empire was whole. The fire had passed. And I was still standing. With the woman I'd once slapped across the face. And who now wore a ring I hadn't taken off since. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.